Over my past 15 years of experience as both a peer-reviewed academic researcher as well as an entrepreneur, I eventually ended up consuming a lot of Jordan Peterson's content. And after countless hours watching his videos and reading his books, I noticed a few key themes that kept emerging again and again. Today, I'm going to distill all these hours into 5 key concepts from Peterson's work that can have the biggest impact on changing your life. And the first of these concepts is journaling. As Peterson has explained in various of his videos, lectures, and books, journaling, that is simply writing down our thoughts, is so effective because, according to Peterson, one main cause of anxiety is that the proportion of things you don't understand to the things you do understand is so high. In other words, when we're anxious, overthinking, or have many problems at once we're dealing with, there's a ton of unprocessed information bouncing around in our brains. When we sit down to journal, it forces us to reflect on the information and our feelings, process them, and then identify solutions or ways we can better understand not only what happened to us in our past, but also how we can shape our future. And not only have there been study upon study demonstrating the benefits of journaling for creative problem solving and personal growth more generally, but journaling is supported by the science of machine learning as well. When we think of all the amazing tasks artificial intelligence can now perform, from doing everything from backflips to writing entire essays, it's only able to do these because a mechanism called a neural network, similar to how our brain cells work, processes data and then filters the data through a process called backpropagation, which is essentially just a process of giving feedback to the system so that it can keep learning and improving. And this is literally modeled on how our brain works. When we journal, we submit information to ourselves for review unconsciously, and then our brain gives us subtle feedback on how we can improve and make better decisions, whether we're aware of it or not. This is why, as I've kept consistent with journaling for so long myself, I've noticed more and more new ideas coming to me more frequently, as if completely out of the blue. Ways to improve, solutions to problems I thought were impossible to solve, and it's all because my brain is unconsciously running this feedback process in the background. All it takes for us to see the benefits of journaling is 15 minutes per day, and although writing down our thoughts in a notebook is ideal, I write my thoughts on my laptop because that's what I know I'll stick to. But journaling is just the first step, because this second key concept from Peterson's content only enhances the power of journaling, and that is focusing outside of ourselves. In numerous of his podcasts, videos, and books, he makes the very astute point that the number of self-referential pronouns one uses is an indicator of neuroticism, meaning simply that the more we focus on ourselves, the more we tend to overthink, ruminate, and become anxious. Ironically, the more we focus on people and things outside of ourselves, the more self-confidence we build, the more competency we develop, and the better we become at regulating our emotions. Interestingly, this is one of the key advantages of machine learning. Once again, machine learning has resulted in soccer-playing robots, AI that can do graphic design, and even artificial chess players that can beat the top chess champions. They seem to hit every goal they're programmed to hit, almost flawlessly. And you want to finally break through and hit your own goals, right? Well, so often our emotions stop us from doing so, and the lack of emotion, specifically the lack of a sense of self on the part of machine learning systems, is a key advantage. Think about it. Our own emotions are what cause delays in our actions. When we try something, fail, and get bad feedback or criticism from others, it causes us to overthink and talk to ourselves and come up with all sorts of statements about our self-worth. I'm not good enough. I must suck at this. I'm such a bad person. And all of this behavior on our part causes us to delay the feedback we would get from more adjustments and more action. And in the same time we're doing all that, machine learning systems and the neural networks they're based on have been using the backpropagation we discussed earlier to try more, fail more, and attempt through what's called partial derivation to isolate and identify the most important factor causing the poor result and input new data to adjust that factor. Decades of research have now shown that focusing on ourselves like this is a major factor in depression and anxiety and even feelings of unhappiness more generally. The solution? Well, we aren't machines, and so we can't just get rid of our sense of self or emotions, and nor would we want to. So instead, one of the best ways besides journaling to get our focus off of ourselves, as Peterson points out, is to focus on ways we can help others and be of service to others. What problems do others have that you can help address? How can you implement simple acts of kindness into your day? How can you simply start becoming more aware of other people around you, their needs, and how you can make someone's day just a little bit brighter? In fact, if you're lost as to what to start journaling on, why not make some of these questions your journaling prompts? Each of these ideas builds on each other. Journaling is one of our fundamental habits to develop, which itself will support us in focusing outside of ourselves, which in turn will help us with the third key concept from Peterson's work: developing our ideal self. One reason we may feel like we're not quite where we want to be in life, Peterson claims, is because we lack a sense of purpose or a clear sense of identity. As a psychologist, Peterson has most definitely studied the work of Albert Bandura, who is the father of modern social cognitive theory. In Bandura's model, which has been well substantiated over the course of decades of research, it has been shown that we all have some internal sense of identity that we're always striving for, whether we're conscious of it or not. This identity is called the ideal self. And it is this ideal self that dictates our standards, values, and ultimately our behaviors. Interestingly, when we're clear about what our ideal self looks like, our behaviors and habits typically fall into place automatically. We don't need to push ourselves or motivate ourselves so hard when we have this sense of clarity. According to what is called self-consistency theory, we'll start to naturally engage in good habits and enjoy doing them at the same time. Okay, but didn't we just say it's key not to focus on ourselves? Doesn't Peterson's work contradict itself then? It might seem so, but interestingly, it's by focusing on others that we truly start to develop our ideal selves. You see, in the latter half of the 20th century, the philosopher Jürgen Habermas, again using frameworks from psychologists such as Jean Piaget, argued that our sense of self, and specifically our sense of morality, is shaped by our interactions with others. It's only through our interactions with others, he argued, that we can develop our vision of our ideal self. It doesn't happen by just sitting in our room contemplating. And once again, not only do decades of social cognitive research support this idea, but so does the science of machine learning. How does ChatGPT, for example, know what to create when you give it the prompt, create a 4-act play in the style of Shakespeare? Well, it's because of its interaction, so to speak, with mounds of data, thousands of scripts and poems by Shakespeare, tens of thousands of examples of 4-act plays, tens of thousands of examples of plots and settings. The reality is, without these reference points, it would be impossible for something like ChatGPT to create anything at all. So we need data too. We need to have the courage to get into conversation with others, explore other people's perspectives and viewpoints, understand their feelings, frustrations, sadness, fears, and joys. And by exposing ourselves as much as possible to others and their viewpoints, we start to become clearer about our own values and standards. And over time, this clarity starts to give us something we all want more of: self-confidence. In both his book 12 Rules for Life and his various other videos, he emphasizes another simple way to reinforce our identity. Make an exhaustive list of things you know you need to do to move where you want to be but aren't doing. And once again, this could even be done through journaling. If it's a stack of paperwork we're avoiding, for instance, come up with a strategy to deal with these papers. Start small, for instance, by simply glancing through the paperwork you're afraid of dealing with. By doing this, we're achieving two things. One, we're making the thing we're afraid of smaller than it is in our imagination. And two, it reinforces in our mind that we're the kind of person who deals with our problems instead of avoiding them. In other words, we're reinforcing our ideal self. Although a lot of our personal growth comes from this kind of internal work on ourselves and our minds, Peterson rightly emphasizes we shouldn't always assume that's true. Instead, we should also focus on our biological health, which brings us to the fourth key concept from his work: stay focused on your health. More and more research is coming out every day linking inflammatory issues and especially gastrointestinal imbalances to depression, anxiety, problems focusing, and poor mood more generally. Ever since I started to become incredibly focused on both my diet and my exercise routine, I noticed I was more focused and productive and nearly tripled my output in multiple areas of my life. And this is partially because exercise in particular literally helps you grow new brain cells by stimulating what is called nerve growth factor. Peterson emphasizes the growing research indicating that diets high in protein and low in refined grains, as well as simply eating a big breakfast and getting up at the same time every day, can literally have life-changing benefits to our brains and our bodies overall. You might think that changes like this are too difficult to implement, but hey, that's what I thought too. When I started going to the gym and doing things like counting my macros and calories, as well as setting my alarm for 5 a.m. every morning, these things were difficult. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. But the key is I didn't start implementing all these things at once. As Charles Duhigg discusses in his book, The Power of Habit, the most important habit to develop is what's known as a keystone habit. This is a small habit we start that makes all other habits easier. For me, actually going to the gym instead of trying to work out at home was the key for me to stay consistent. Being around other people with music and a lot of activity started to help me get motivated in the morning. And eventually, because I started to see gains from going to the gym, I actually started to want to track my calories and protein because I didn't want to lose my progress, which then led to better sleeping habits, which then led to higher productivity during the day, and it just became a domino effect. What's gonna start this domino effect for you? Your keystone habit that gets this domino effect going might simply be waking up a few minutes earlier, or it might be taking a walk for 15 minutes outside every day, or doing deep breathing. Whatever that is for you, don't stress yourself out. Just implement one small habit and the rest will follow over time. The last key concept from Peterson that he discusses throughout all of his work can be summed up in the following phrase: pursue the highest good. Peterson has a strong background not only in psychology, but in literature and philosophy. This has made him very focused not only on the popular self-help concept of finding your why and finding your purpose, but also on pursuing the highest purpose and the highest good in a moral sense. And I couldn't agree with him more. As he has stated multiple times, the idea of moral relativism is actually a dangerous one, and having a set of moral principles or virtues we're actively looking to live up to is the key to help us hold ourselves accountable when nobody's watching. Admittedly, this is a philosophical rabbit hole we don't have time to discuss in this video, and I do actually disagree with many of his moral viewpoints, but once again, decades of research have shown the importance of having a sense of purpose for not only happiness overall, but also goal setting and achievement more specifically. But if this sense of purpose is so important, how do we build it? Well, in addition to what we've already discussed in terms of journaling, developing outward focus, developing an ideal self through interaction with others, and proper nutrition and exercise, we can also implement a purpose-building technique. There are many techniques we can use to start to define our purpose, but here's a technique from author of Start With Why, Simon Sinek, that is especially effective and which you can start using right away. First, write down your top 5 positive life experiences. When did you feel the happiest? When have you felt the most at peace? Now do the same with your top 5 negative life experiences. When did you feel at your worst? When have you been the most stressed, anxious, or depressed? When have you felt the most insecure? Now ask yourself, among the top 5 best experiences and top 5 worst experiences, what were the common threads or themes? What activities were you doing or not doing during those times? Who were you spending time with or associating with? Pay attention to the themes and common threads that arise. Those are likely to give you valuable information you can use to move in the right direction. Once again, we can even journal on these questions, and asking these questions along with the other 4 key ideas we've discussed have been shown to increase our agency. That is, these practices literally make us a freer and more self-determining individual. If you want to keep leveling up your critical thinking to make a massive impact on your own life and the lives of others, then be sure to watch this next video.